I did fall asleep during the game though.
We are calling to order the Board of Education meeting for RCC for Tuesday, July 21st, 2026. I see that we have a quorum, so we can get started. Do we have any public comment? No public comment. All right, we were moving forward with our board action and or information items. Oh, boy, are you. I was gonna move that agenda item up. I wasn't even here yet, so I didn't do it. So we will, everyone had a chance hopefully to look at the first readings for all of the board policies. If you have any questions or concerns about those, make sure you reach out to Randy.
I have a question.
Okay,
So it looks like it's a new policy, work after retirement. Since policy none, there's no strike through, so I'm just guessing it's new.
yes, Rochelle says.
Okay, and I wondered, is there an AP administrative procedure that would follow? It references that.
Yes, I think there is. Oh, I think I forgot to send out the APs to everyone this month.
Okay.
But I'll get them before the next month.
Yes, go. I'm ready. Yeah, I will speak to it.
So part of the reason why this is a new board policy and administrative procedure is it's a new template that's provided by OCCA, but it is based on longstanding existing practice. So it doesn't represent any change in practice from the institution, at least over the course of my 13 years with this background information.
So there'd be no changes.
Correct. It's based off of existing guidelines and materials that HR has maintained on the HR website.
Any other questions? Go
I
ahead.
was gonna say, does this require Lisa to work after she retires? Yeah.
I don't see my name in there.
Only a few. Indra, you had a question?
Yeah, I do. So, and this kind of might go with Gary. I don't know. It went past me which number he talked about, but on the B non-discrimination.
It's a different one.
Oh, okay. So that was my question though. It's very vague and my concern would be unintended consequences because how is discriminatory determined? And do the like there's no due process language in there. Is that elsewhere as well?
That'd be in the AP, how they do it.
And there is due process difference between students' right to due process and employees' right.
Okay. Okay, and is there a place where discriminatory is best determined? Who determines that, I guess?
Person who's feeling discriminated against would be the one who would be bringing it to somebody's attention.
The different types of discrimination are defined, and then the process for investigation and adjudication, depending upon the complaining party, is outlined in the investigations AP.
Okay. And is there balancing language in those additional pieces that talk about regarding constitutional right, freedom of speech, freedom of association, those kinds of things?
I believe that,
Academic freedom?
yeah, I mean, all of those things come into play in a process when we're balancing, we use a preponderance of the evidence, so 50% and a feather. And so all of those things would be considered if they are relevant to the case.
My concern, if it's in other language, it just wasn't here to see that. That's great, but it's just kind of subjective if it's just discriminatory, if it's not spelled out, and if the due process and the balancing language regarding the constitutional rights aren't in there. So that was just my concern. Thank you. Oh, one other. So it talks about professional, I don't have it in front of me. So does it apply to professional organizations with limited membership?
What do you mean by that?
Well, because in there, I'm sorry, I don't have it in front of me. it talks about, staff, basically, and not belonging to, I'm sorry, I
Are
don't
you
know.
looking in the
I don't know the
non-discrimination,
exact-
or are you looking for the? Oh, is that all around?
The,
says
the
that
no
as
funds.
Shall be used for
No,
membership.
go back.
Oh,
Are we in the right?
well, no district.
No
yeah.
district fund shall ever be used for membership or for any participation involving financial payment or contribution on behalf of the district or any individual employee or employed by or associated with it. So,
To any private organization whose membership practices are discriminatory on the basis.
right, but what if there's an all men's group that some staff is a member of? And they want,
The RCC won't pay for it.
well, what if they're providing some kind of professional development in their field? That means they can't do it. So are there exceptions? There was something else. Religious organizations, do they qualify for legal? Because there are legal exceptions to this discriminatory thing. And then organizations with single sex membership, is that prohibited even if it's lawful to have? So those were my concerns, just bringing up.
Where
There's-
district funds ever pay for those things? 'Cause
Right,
that's what
meaning
this
if they
paragraph's about.
offered some kind of professional development was in someone's field that they wanted to attend, and normally that's something the district would pay for, would they not, because of the organization doing the exemptions to some of those things in there?
So there's quite a bit to unpack there for sure. What I would start by saying is that not every organization that may have an affinity group of some kind engages in discriminatory practices, right? And so there's a couple of ways that we would go about something like this. If it's an organization that we would be directly paying, we would ask that they adhere to our terms and conditions, which includes some pretty standard non-discrimination language, right? So they'd have to agree to that. When it comes to, for example, somebody's use of their professional growth funds, so the college is reimbursing them versus paying that entity. Similar expectations would be at play in terms of not having discriminatory practices. But if there is more detail or a specific group that you'd like us to look into, I'd be happy to do that.
That's in writing somewhere though, that's what I'm asking, so it's not just gonna be someone saying, oh, this one's okay, but this one's not, it's somewhere in writing.
Yeah, I mean, we would, through a contracting process, that's a very spelled out process, and we do have standard language related to non-discrimination expectations.
Any other questions? No, thank you.
We are moving on to our action item, and we will start with action item E, annual board organization for the fiscal year 26-27. I would entertain a motion.
So moved.
Pat seconds. Any discussion? Okay, all those in favor as presented, say aye. Any opposed? Motion passes.
I'll put you in the meeting.
It's you.
RCC board and president agreement.
Could I have a moment to express an appreciation, Mr. President?
Yes.
Mr. Chair, excuse me.
No.
So I wanted to just call out my appreciation for the time that Vanessa has served on the board of education. I want to show my appreciation to you, and I also did make a small contribution to the foundation in recognition to your service. So
For that.
it's not an easy role to manage the time, listen, participate, and I think you did that amazingly well.
Thank
I
you,
appreciate
David.
it. Well, always been said,
It will be missed. So our team agreement.
I do have a couple.
Well, I make a
comments.
motion that we approve them and then when we get to discussion, is that okay?
Really be discussed first.
Yeah.
That's fine.
Usually get on the table, then you discuss it.
Correct. For Robert's rules.
Yeah, per
Yeah.
Robert's rules.
So there is a motion. Second.
Okay. Now go.
Discussion.
Now discussion.
Okay, so my biggest concern with the statement and employee, authorize the assistant to the president to respond on behalf of the board. My concern would be that that creates an appearance that an employee who's reporting to the president is actually speaking for the independent governing board. I can see that causing confusion as to.
Are you talking about number 11 on team
Mhm.
agreements? So her responding, saying, we got your email and here's the process that you should follow.
I
Okay,
think
I
one
see
of
what
the
you're saying.
things that we discussed that probably isn't in this language is the reason this might be an appropriate practice is because Rochelle serves as assistant to both the president and the board. So it would be more in her role as assistant to the board. You know, the board received this, so that's why when we do a lot of things, and so it might be worth modifying that language, say to authorize. So then you could say, we're gonna have the board's assistant, you know, respond and guide you through the process. And so then, you know, but it's wearing her board assistant hat, not the president's, that is the concern expressed to the board is working through the system.
Right, and that would solve that, so I think that language would need to be changed in there. And then, because and I looked it up, some boards also adopt a standard response to a complaint that they acknowledge receipt. Say the board is not deciding the complaint, the matter's being referred to the
Mhm.
appropriate staff, and the board will avoid involvement in any matter.
And I think
So
we talked
sometimes
about
they
that, didn't we?
specifically have a standard response, which might be nice.
And I think you weren't there when we were talking about it.
Yeah,
And so I think that was
sorry.
part of the discussion that we had about having just a script that went out to the people to say, thank you so much, but here's the process and yeah.
Okay, and then are there any situations where the college policy specifically requires board notification? So would there be any complaint where the board would all be notified? or not? Because sometimes complaints come to one of us.
I think, and we know, I know you were unable to
I'm
attend the board.
sorry.
I think that was a responsibility put on me as number 6. So where it says utilize weekly updates to follow up with the board regarding any outstanding complaints. So, right, let's hypothetically, we talk through it. If somebody sent a concern to Pat and then Pat sent it to Rochelle, if he had an inkling that the full board should know about this one,
Mhm.
he could have an expectation that I would update the board on the complaint and the severity and the notice of it. And if not, then he could work with the chair or me, set an expectation to say, why isn't the whole board doing this? Versus maybe having the complainant email the whole board and give them confidence that the whole board may take action. I think that was where the
Mhm.
conversation was going on it. So there is the avenue for a receiving board member, if it's an individual, to say, hey, President, why is the whole board not made aware of this? But sometimes you all know, you get something really simple, you're like, I just want you to handle this. The whole board doesn't need to know about this one versus this might be a larger. So some of that will be, you know, we'll have to figure it out as we go. But that responsibility I have in number 6 is to notify the board when something, so we had a couple this spring that we tried to work through that process a bit to say, here's some concerns expressed to the board, here's an update on those concerns and going through that. So there is that avenue of expectation on me to follow up on the matters that probably are escalating to full board awareness.
Okay, should that not be, I mean, for me and especially, and I'm not new anymore, but a new board member coming in, it would be nice within that policy to have us, are there specific situations that require that? So
I could possibly think of it if
leaving
it was a
to
complaint
you.
against you.
And And that was also, do we have any exceptions to the policy where if it was a complaint against you in the policy written, what is the policy at then? What do we
You're
do?
talking about,
And I'm just saying, and I apologize for being gone, but if we're gonna have a policy, it sounds like a lot is just, well.
Well, this is
we have-
just an agreement, not a
Yeah,
policy.
Well, right.
Yeah, this is
Right,
okay,
right.
yeah.
But if we're gonna have an agreement, sorry, I misspoke.
Yeah.
I think for me, it would be helpful to have more specific things in there. But
what I would offer is that the complaints policy or procedure really spells out the steps in the process on how all of this gets resolved. There is no board policy around that. So that, but the complaint policy is a sort of boilerplate best practice from OCCA. So it sort of handles all of that. And I think if you said there was a complaint against the president of the college, what it says is complaints against the college president should first attempt to be resolved directly. If no resolution is reached directly, the student shall forward their complaint to the vice president of people, culture, and safety, who will work with the chairperson of the RCC Board of Education to investigate and resolve it as appropriate. So although there isn't a direct contact to all of us, a member of the board is then aware of that and potentially, depending on the merits of that, would notify all of us. So I feel like it's sort of handled already within the procedure.
This is just an agreement between us that we're not gonna go rogue, trying to solve the problem that's outside of our realm of knowledge. We forward the policy, we'll follow forward whatever we get, and it's gonna be an email. That's how you're gonna get it, because we all have our emails published. We get an email, we see, okay, we're not gonna respond to this directly, at least I'm not going to. I'm gonna send it to Rochelle. Rochelle will let Randy know. Rochelle's gonna talk to the person who sent the email, say, we understand your concerns. We're gonna address it in due course. So it's just an agreement between us that we're gonna do this. So, because to be perfectly honest, I'd probably be the one to worry about that. I'd probably go rogue. So it just lets me know, okay, I know the process. I'm not gonna try and deal with this directly. And before I usually take it up with Randy directly. I think that the idea is the process, proper process, go to Rochelle. Rochelle will make sure Randy knows, and the rest of the person who has an issue with us. But it's not about how the issue is ultimately resolved, because it really isn't. Just about how we communicate with the public. Did I do that okay? Was that about right?
The vast majority of the complaints or concerns that come to the board, the vast majority have not gone through the due process procedure. And so the majority of respondents need to be told there is a process, here's how to follow it. Rare is it I did. Now, there's a lot of times I expressed my concern to this person and I didn't get what I wanted, but rare is, well, there are procedures that you have yet to exhaust. And even so, then, I mean, under the current policy and procedure, that's final based on board. Now, if the board itself said, we've got concerns about this, we want to look at the policy and the procedures because we don't like this procedure, we don't like these outcomes, that would be a governance question, that or conversation at least to have. But I think this conversation stemmed a lot around when complaints come to the board, and the board doesn't want to manage or facilitate the process, then how do we help understand that the complainant is getting a response? And that was like, this is how we can create an assurance that the complainant would get a response, would be instructed on what the procedure to go through is. And then every once in a while, there are people who said, I've exhausted every due process right, and I still don't like the outcome. And that is a natural reality as well. And so sometimes policies and procedures get changed as a result of that. But the majority of them that come, and a couple of them that we tested this year, I can say with confidence had not gone through the instructed procedure to get there. And so we will experience, particularly in the age of AI, where people are using this tool. I will create a very compelling ask, fast forward it to the people at the top of the governance structure, and see where it goes from there.
It goes right to Rochelle.
Yeah.
I do like that we've added this. I thought the discussion that we had during retreat was like really robust about making sure we're not speaking as the board,
Yeah.
as one board member versus making sure people are, that we're staying out of the weeds of operations, right? And staying out of the weeds of that and staying in our lane.
That's important.
Yeah, so.
Which leads me to my next question. So it has refer all questions from the press. Not that, I just don't want to break agreements. I mean, if I vote for this, so. And the press doesn't come to me, but I mean, we go to events and graduations. And so if Vicky or whoever covers, not Vicky, someone from the Courier comes up and asks a question, what do you think of this event? I mean, are we supposed to expected to refer, like it says, all questions? I don't really agree with that piece. I mean, I can get where if it's something controversial or difficult, that we don't want to go there, but all questions, did you all discuss that? It just
I think
seems,
we discussed
it
that.
just seems controlling, like you don't want to, our voice to be out there at all.
Could I just, as a
Yeah.
counterpoint, I mean, I hear what you're saying. And I agree because it's sort of like saying, well, we can't speak freely. We are all public officials, as it were. However, once you've cracked the door open, who knows what people would then say on whatever myriad of topic there is. So even if someone said, so Gary, how did you think graduation went? Well, I'm here. I'd like to refer you to the chair. We agreed that this is what our agreements are. I know it sounds weird, but
Very-
well, but
It
what,
also gets to number two, speak with one voice.
speak with one voice. And what if there was a labor dispute and the press is now reaching out to us over what we think about whatever contract dispute or labor dispute there is? So we might all have different opinions about that. And I just think that for the sake of having a unified, we will only speak with one voice. We may have individual voices, but I think once the door is cracked open, Pandora's box is open, and I worry about that.
So it's never, dealing with the journalist, you'll live here long enough, you'll deal with enough. It's never the first question. First question is
Easy.
easy and innocuous. It's the follow-up questions. And it can get you so turned around sideways, it's surprising. You can go and say, yeah, the day is nice, that's fine. But as soon as it says, well, why weren't all the flags put out there?
Exactly.
Political statement, why all the flags weren't out there? Why didn't we have flag during graduation? Is the college telling us something? Are they unhappy with it? So it's that kind of stuff. That's why I tend not to. And I know what
And
you
then
feel.
when you say, well, actually, you should talk to the board chair, then it makes you look like
Yeah.
you have something shady when you really don't. Yeah.
And it's your relationship with whoever's asked the question too.
Well, we're all elected, trusted, professional individuals. I don't see why I think we should all be able to have a voice. We're trusting the president and the staff with a lot, and we should be trusted too. I feel like we're not being trusted to say what we feel or what, or to give professional, good answers. I mean, I don't know. I just feel that, and which is the one voice thing. So just so the board, decides something, but there could be, one or two or three who disagree and we go forward with it. But does that mean we never say, oh, I love that, even when we don't? To me, it suppresses our freedom of speech, honestly.
Maria's, sorry.
Yes.
Have it.
Maria.
Good job,
Hi,
Jonathan.
everyone. Sorry I'm not there with you in person. I'm listening to conversation and my concern is that, and I've been part of boards where a board member has gone sideways, not this group, has gone sideways because they did talk to the press and created a big issue. So I was very happy when we added this this rule that we would refer all questions to the board chair. And I really encourage us to keep it there. And it's just the reality of our role. And and that the press is trying to do their job. So, I don't, unless we receive some really, really, strong, and frequent, training from, how to handle calls with the press, or questions from the press, I recommend that we not even go there.
My final comment, oh, sorry.
Go ahead.
One voice is, it's all good and well when you're in the majority with one voice, but if you're in the minority, it feels kind of sad and lonely that you have no expression.
Oh, no, you do.
Yeah.
And
Well,
And I think though too, the part of the good part about this is when we do get to have our discussion time, like for me, when we have discussion time for motions or action items, that's when we get to express our opinion and our voice and our things. And then once the board as a whole decides, then yeah, even if it's not your favorite thing, it's our job to go forward out the door with this is what we're gonna do. But I do feel like we do get an opportunity in this forum to, if we disagree about something, to say like, actually, I don't agree with that, or I think this, or I think that. Versus with the press who can just take one little nugget and turn it into whatever they want to. So I agree, Maria. I have also been on places where someone's gone rogue and really messed up some good things that were happening. So I mean, we talked about this back in 2023 is when 1 through 10 that we've been abiding by for us. And
I
so-
should clarify, I didn't mean the press, I meant just constituents talking with
Oh, it
constituents.
doesn't say that at all.
One voice.
Well, when one refers to how does the board feel, there is one voice, the vote of 7-0 or 6-1 or
Mhm.
5-2. So when you do talk to constituents, you really could say, I was one of the dissenting voices.
Sure.
But the board decided this, and I think you're free to say that.
I think when you watch some of this in practice with high performing and struggling boards, the example might be, it was a difficult or a contentious issue, but this is the decision of the board, and this is why it was seen by the board as in the best interest. And in some people who carve out well, and I this, but the dark side of that is there are decisions of the board that after the action, board members actively campaign against. And I think that's what the bad side of one voice looks like. It's like this board decided this. Now you have a member of the board campaigning against that effort makes it makes for a less strong board. But those are the two extremes there where it's like, it's not that somebody doesn't have a voice. And I think you talk about the process, it's after the decision and to be able to say, it was a robust conversation and this was the outcome of the group and for this reason. It doesn't make you the champion of it, but the informer and the voice of that rationale.
Well, and I understand there's a difference between speaking as I mean, we're not gonna go out and speak as a board member. But even to the press, we could speak as a citizen, but is that, I didn't talk about that. So when it says no questions to the press, is that what it's talking about? Just as a board member or as a citizen too? Is there clarity on that?
Which one are you talking about?
The
Which number?
for all questions to the press. I don't know what number. it is.
Oh, number 9, referral
Right.
questions from the press to the college. president
Right,
and
to
board.
the college.
I would say, when I read that, I think about any questions about the college need to go to the college.
And the board chair. The
And
board
the
chair
board
is part
chair.
of that process.
I was just thinking that this doesn't say that you must be muted. This just says to refer the question. And maybe the board chair and or president or both would say, well, go freely talk to them about your candidacy. Or this is an absolutely good time to speak with your own personal voice because you're a candidate. So it doesn't mute you. It just is being, there's a gatekeeping in a way so that we don't each become rogue to use a word and go off in these various directions that seem to be confusing to the public on, well, who is speaking for the board?
Hmm.
Because the board can only have one voice, and I think that's what we meant when we wrote this. In number two, speaking with one voice as the board, as the majority, but it doesn't indicate, at least to me, that individually we couldn't express our maybe disagreement or our own opinion
So as a board member.
Yeah.
Speaking,
as an individual.
but
Yeah,
just as a citizen, we could answer
Oh, yeah.
press questions. It's not clear in this.
I
Is
think
why
the tricky part is when they say, you know, Vanessa Jones, comma, member of the RCC board. Well, now now they are identifying me as the board member versus Vanessa Jones, citizen.
Right, but
Right,
you
so-
would say that,
I can say it
right?
if I want.
Yeah.
How they write it is how they choose to write it, but
More questions?
Hopefully there will be no questions. You know, hopefully.
Should be, because they can put out great things about the college and we could say great things
Yeah.
about the college. So you're all saying,
Well, and
the
that's number
worst
5
case
though.
scenario.
Number 5 says praise publicly,
Publicly.
celebrate accomplishments.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that's part
praise
of our,
publicly
Yeah.
To the press.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, it's
That's-
not clear then in there. Okay, thank you.
my only comment, and maybe Randy, when you and Rochelle put your heads together, where it says acknowledged, I would imagine we would put the date that the board has approved the revisions to this.
go
So-
down at the bottom.
Yeah, at the bottom.
Okay.
So I wonder if the word acknowledged is the best word, or if it should have another line revised on this date.
And then we're changing president to, instead of assistant to the president, it'll say assistant to the board in number 11.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, that's what we kind of heard.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And definitely we can do that. I think that it was the board's choice to use that acknowledged for a while, because didn't want to formalize adoption. And so, but then that's so, revised. I think because this is a revision, not acknowledged in the same one, adding it is a good way to capture that. So given that, does it make, I guess revise, you wouldn't want to put an acknowledged date and a revised date at the same date. I think revised would just assume.
Correct.
When it was revised, it was acknowledged.
Yeah, exactly.
So I just want you, I hear what you all are saying and I agree what you're talking about, but it's not in the agreement. And so I'm gonna be a no on it.
Okay.
Thank you.
Can I revise my motion? So that we don't have to bring this back next month and say, I'd like to amend my motion to say, I approve the team, or I acknowledge the team agreements with the word board instead of president in number 11.
Number 11.
Are you okay with that, Pat?
You're the second, or you?
I'm good with that.
Okay. So revised. Any other discussion? Seeing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
Name.
Okay, motion carries. G is the 26-27 tuition fee and. Fee correction. Read.
I'll give a quick update, and Lisa's our subject matter expert. This is a correction in language, but as a reminder, I think we had shared with the board, we had some numbers that weren't finalized on adoption. So this is helping to capture those finalized numbers.
I move we approve the 26-27 tuition and fee correction.
Second.
Any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. H, Emeritus status for Michael LaFleur.
Approval. I'll second that.
Been moved and seconded. Any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. College updates, President's report.
Yeah, just real quick, I provided you the OCCA and United Strategies updates as part of written materials. Thing I will add is that a lot of ongoing conversations. Matter of fact, I had a great dialogue and coffee this morning with a member of the 4124 House Bill 4124 committee. Just really want to get a better understanding and digging in to how we're looking at higher ed at our OPC retreat in the first week of August in Pendleton. It's a great agenda. a particular topic of interest overall, but to RCC is looking at the CCSF. There has been there's been the business officers put together a lot of effort to make a recommendation to address the growth management cap, which we've talked ad nauseum about in this meeting. At that time, the president chose not to take action based on concern about unintended consequences. And then we had a CCSF work group that looked a little bit deeper and said, well, we don't want to take action because there's unintended consequences. I spent some time with the executive director of OCCA, Abby, who came and presented to the group, and I put it in front of her visually and said, this is what's happening and this is where it's going, and there's no fix in the current model the way we have it. It's just going to get worse. And so the model is broke. It's first and worst for RCC, but it's broke for everybody. And she said, and part of this, Lisa did a phenomenal job of helping me put the visuals together. She said, Randy, all the presidents need to see this. This makes sense. I've not seen or felt or heard it this way. So we're going to talk about that as part of our conversation. And there's really an opportunity to look at the way we do through House Bill 4124, the way we look at funding of post-secondary. My conversation this morning was with Duncan Weiss, who many of you may know has been for years the leader of the Oregon Business Council. And through that conversation at the conclusion, I said, I think I'm adopting what I'm going to call a very simple mantra. I'm going to challenge from my seat the state of Oregon to point its post-secondary resources at meeting the needs of the future and not maintaining what we currently have. The current model maintains what we currently have. It's not focused on meeting the needs of the future. I think if we give that charge to ourselves, then we can argue about, well, what does that look like? And what would we prioritize? And then that becomes a very long and detailed conversation. But I think right now we prioritize maintaining what we have, and there's no clearer message of that than focusing on current service level.
So I want to acknowledge, Jonathan and I went to the legislative OCCA legislature, and they specifically talked about Rogue being, this is imbalance in how it affects us. Now, I know that I was in the room, and so I made more noise than I probably should have. I'm waiting for Jonathan to speak up, and you are
Appropriate noise.
But yeah, they understand that it's a big problem. Now, how that relates when we get done with the OPC, it's a little different story, but we got to get the group to understand.
So the statement that I've made is the model's broke. And it's worst and first for RCC, but it's broken for everybody.
Yeah.
There are 13 schools eligible to exceed the growth management cap. All 13 have exceeded it.
Yeah.
There's not a single school who under the current model could say we're going to grow our way out of this problem. They are stuck where they're at within the model. That's not a model, that even an enrollment model. So that understanding and getting there and visualizing it for folks is to hope inspire that, okay, we need to do something. But I'm going to go out on a limb here and say we have an opportunity to maybe tweak this current model on the fringes, or to say how are Oregon's resources pointed at future need. And I'm going to say let's just take the full lead. Let's acknowledge this is broken, not spend too much time fixing the broken model, and really go create the model that helps us build the workforce in the future that Oregon's commitment to economic development recently will allow us to prioritize.
Do you have any concept what that might look like?
I'm very intentional about not leading with that. Right now, you got to set the priority before you say this, because I think that is the devil in the detail. But I will say this. Our friends in Washington, they recently redesigned their funding model, and they did the entire thing blind until the last step. They did not look at through the whole process who wins and who loses based on current design. That would be an example. I'm like, let's figure out what we think are our priorities, where we should put them, and not look at impact on institutions. Look at this is where the resources should go, and it's up to the institutions to go pursue those outcomes.
Yeah, that's kind of what I was asking, because it seems to me you put that charge and then the next question is, okay, well, what does that look like?
Well, there's things like, for example, you probably look at equalization, which is pretty much an untouchable in the state of Oregon, but maybe we look at weighted FTE, the way we currently fund the existing FTE that we report. I'm on record saying in multiple areas, there's conversations that we get reimbursed at the same rate for tutoring and high school dual credit, which are very important, as we do nursing and dental hygiene, does not make sense. Based on community need, cost of delivery, that's rare to find a state. So the current model incentivizes us offering low cost FTE regardless of need. And it needs to incentivize offering FTE of need and supporting high costs as a result of that. That would be my position. How we get there, that's why there's lots of heads in the room who will be, but I think that better aligns us with responding to future need. And today it's current service level. And
Yeah.
we get stuck there.
It's not only just within community colleges, but it's also us with higher ed, because we have a lot more expensive. CTE is classic because it's just more expensive to provide those. We have a lot more higher expensive class to offer than a lot of four-year institutions, which is, coursework. Didn't I say that at the meeting?
Yes, you did.
Yeah, I made a point of him had to acknowledge at the meeting that, no, Randy, I said this. So we need to acknowledge those. And we'll never get to equity or fairness until we get to that point.
And what a number of folks will tell you is that the current model took a lot of work.
Yeah.
And it was developed by the institutions. The presidents were the ones who adopted it. And I think it's run a good course.
Yeah.
And it may be an opportunity. I'd love for us to have the control, but we may have to have the control with the charge.
Yeah.
And when we did the charge last time, it was on the heels of Measure 5 and it was about equalization, and the model reflects that priority. If we change the priority, maybe we could get a model that reflects whatever the changed priority would be.
Can we make sure that Lisa's still with us until the model's adopted?
Well, she'll be helped. When I go to these conversations and people say, Randy, you have a good understanding of this, I have a cheat sheet,
Yeah.
which is Lisa. Lisa does a phenomenal job of preparing me for that conversation.
Any other questions? Yeah. New business, we have the 26-27 conference convention schedule. And as before, if you have an indication you would like to attend, please contact Rochelle.
Is there cutoff dates, Rochelle, for like the conference, the?
Update as we go along. I didn't see any. Okay, we still have to update like all the registration and stuff, so there will be at some point.
Thank you. Okay, there's no old business. Next is roundtable. Start on that end of the table. Roger.
Oh dear. I don't think I have anything to contribute at this point.
Well, I'm looking forward to 3 or 4 days with Randy and 16 other people that may hate me by the end of the meeting, but I think this is a really a turning point. There's a change that has to be made, because I don't think it's sustainable the way it is, and I think we have to work toward it. And I won't be quiet. So, but unfortunately, I'll fall behind. I promised Randy I wouldn't say anything until his presentation's done. So I have faith in Randy. He'll make the change hearts before I have to get up and stomp on the table. So should be interesting.
I don't have much, but I just want to say, I've never seen this till just now. This is beautiful. I just glanced through it earlier. What a great job.
The road currents in front of you is a student-led and produced. It is awesome.
Yeah.
The student in charge of this, Michael, who you met at our awards night, after this was printed, he chased me down at Riverside campus and he goes, it turned out so much better than I thought it would. And we had faculty help and support them. This is and they're very intentional about saying, this is the inaugural issue. And so the one and done is the inaugural issue.
So kudos to the students and whoever else was involved in this. Great job.
And thanks for sharing your copy for us.
See, the team agreement you helped.
Any comments on this end of the table?
I just want to say, Indra, how much I just appreciate you digging in and looking at things. You always make me think about things in different ways, and I appreciate that. Like,
Yep.
I appreciate viewpoints that are differing, that I can like wrap my head around and see, oh, And I understand that better where you're coming from. So I just want to say.
Don't
thank you.
stop.
Don't stop doing that. I appreciate it. And I appreciate Jonathan
Oh,
taking over.
If you-
Maria?
That was better.
I know.
Gary, any? Okay. Okay, the Board of Education will now adjourn the regular meeting at 5:45 PM and move into executive session pursuant to ORS 192-660. The board will not be reconvening after the executive session, and any final action will take place at the regular meeting of the board. Representatives of the news media and designated staff will be allowed to attend. All other members of the audience will be asked to leave the room. 5 minutes.